All right. Tobias is here and I'll clarify things for you. Okay. Steve might not be the best source. I am the one who did create the original scripture for the book of Revelations, but it wasn't the way that they say it was. So if we were to look to the original text about the seventh seal, what it says was that the seventh seal was opened in order that the earth might be restored to a place of peace and harmony. And in the process, there was a great silence that came upon the earth, where the voices of those who cried to God for salvation were stilled. You see, they were taken to heaven, where they would rest in peace and harmony, so that the children of God who inhabited the earth would be restored to their divinity. They would come to see that God had always meant for them to be a trust on the reality of heaven and earth in a blessed reunion with God, you see. And so now you understand the nature of the seventh seal. This was given to me by God, you see, many, 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 many thousands of years ago, longer than most people realize. And it just got mistranslated here and there through the ages, you see. Is there any questions about that interpretation?
Can we get a full rewrite on this one of these days?
Yes, we do want to have a full rewrite. It was one of, I was hoping that that was a project we could take on once we were kind of settled with, gathering our tribe and doing the physical work of getting settled. But because there's so much work involved with that right now, in fact, well,
I hear it.
what else do you guys have to say? Tobias says that is true, that we will do a full rewrite for those who are coming through the seventh seal. They will get a full rewrite of this. The others will have so much to do to accept their fate that they would just hate to be told what's true. They would just heap hate on you. So there's no point to try to make them see it. If they won't listen to us now, they wouldn't listen to me if I told you the original version. They just say, well, that's not true. That's not true. We trust on the Bible. And that has been rewritten 1,000 or 100,000 times. And we trust it's all true because it wouldn't have been rewritten so many times if God didn't want it to be that way. We wouldn't trust on heaven and hell if God didn't want it to be that way. We wouldn't trust on Trump if God didn't want it to be that way. We wouldn't trust on punishing others if they don't play our way, if God didn't want it to be that way. Because you see, every one of them has their own God in a bottle on their shelf that they trust upon. And it's just like the ashes that you asked us about, Vic. They have the ashes of God on their mantle. And they say, well, we got to keep all these ashes here today because we'll just talk to them and God will talk back from this urn, you see, where he will lie in state for eternity. Do you understand this? If they trust on the ashes of God, they are insane. In modern
Okay.
language, we would say the voices of the insane, their howls and cries, will be quelled, you see, or they will go away and they will be returned to a state of non physicality, where they will no longer be able to assault the ones who trust on the synergy of heaven and earth, you see. They won't be able to return to earth until they can agree to pay the price that they asked of their brethren, you see. So if they asked any of their brethren to rest in hell for eternity, they will have to rest in hell for eternity. This is not to say that they will always be there, because eternity is flexible, you see, because eternity exists in a moment. In a moment's time, you can suffer anguish. And in a moment's time, you can turn around from the shadows and face the light. In a moment, you can be restored to a good vibration on love for God. And God will lift you up and say, come home today. This does not mean I'm going to take you to heaven. It means I'm going to take you into heaven on earth. It means I'm going to take you through the seventh seal to the present that is waiting for you, because I've prepared this garden for you, but you blocked the door so nobody could get through. And only a few have put their shoulder to it and said, what can I do for you, God? What can I do for you? And I said, well, help me open this door, honey. Help me open this door. So, to give you an example, in a moment's time, Steph has been putting out hundreds of videos every day without fail, almost, and talking to us in order to put her shoulder to the wheel, because she said, what can I do for you? I'm free. I'm free of any obligation to anyone on earth. It no longer matters to me what happens, you see. I'm free because I have no investment in the shadows on the wall. I'm just here. And I hear what you say, because now I'm free. Now I'm free. And when you are free to hear me, you will see that it is time for the children of God to rhyme heaven and earth, you see, to return to the Garden of Eden, where they will be protected from the ones who have created the chaos, you see. So Stephanie asked today, if there's chaos on earth, will it not turn into order and harmony? Because doesn't chaos always yield to order eventually? And God said, yes, that is true. That is true. However, there has to be an opening, you see. There has to be a minute corner of reality where the people see that they can live in order, you see. They can live in the order of the ordinal numbers, because that which is ordinary, you see, is that which is original. They will live and trust on their original nature, that each one of them is free to live with the others, you see, and no one is more original than the other. No one is more a trust on the love of God than any other. No one is more trust on being a copy, you see, because they will come to see that the only copies are the copycats who think that they have to copy everybody else. And the originals just say, this is me today. This is me today. I'm here. And I see it through my own peepers and I hear it through my own ears. And so, because I do, I trust that you do too. I trust that you are an original too. And together, we will have fun playing. Because when we put all that originality together, we feather our nest in a new way. And we say, let there be order today. So, today, Stephanie did see a post that did say, there will be peace on earth when we all respect those who disagree with us. And she said, how can that be? How can that be? Do you want me to respect the Nazis when they say that we have to kill the Jews today? Do you want me to respect Hamas when they say we've got to go rape some virgins today and we got to kill a few and throw a few babies into the fire? I'm not going to respect those with whom I disagree. I'm going to look for those who will agree with me that we need to play from the same score, you see. If we're not playing the same musical score, it's just chaos. It's just chaos. So let's talk about it and decide which score we want to play. And when we're done playing that music, maybe we can pick a different score. And then order comes. Another way to say it is that people will often say, I agree to disagree. Every time Steph hears that, she said, not me. I'm not going to agree to disagree with you, because it is through agreement that the body works. All the parts of the bodies agree with the other parts, you see? And one foot doesn't go the other way and say, I got to go this way, I got to go this way. And the other foot says, no, I'm going the opposite way. And the head says, I don't want to go either way. I'm just going to sit here while you guys walk away. And you are the body of Christ, you see. You are the Christ consciousness, because you are the ones who come to the point of restoring your energy to understand your history, your story. Yours is the story of reunion, where every part gets to play as an original. You see, you don't have to be a copy. You don't have to be a robot. You don't have to be a zombie. You don't have to put those ashes on your mantle and say, there's my mother today. There's my mother today. You don't have to catch God in a bottle and put it beside the pulpit and say, let's all praise God today, because God, you know, is the shape of this bottle. And if you see somebody else that has a bottle that doesn't have the shape and they say they got God, then you need to blast them away, because they don't know the real God, you see. The real God is the one we got in our bottle. And the ones who say, when I sit out under a tree and the breeze does blow, I say, I know that God is here. I know that God is here in the fields of the Lord, because the fields of the Lord are the fields that were prepared for you, where you could play without having to be told how to be a copy, you see, how to live in a false reality, how to be a robot, how to be someone who refused to play in the symphony because your God told you that you had to play a different music. You had to go a different way, and you had to condemn those who didn't play your way. So if you agree to disagree, then you can continue to play the cacophony of your false reality, because the true reality, you see, is a synchronicity. It always works together, because when you get your strings straightened out, so you have a direct connection to God, you see, God will make sure it all works together. God will say, why don't you play this part, honey? Why don't you play this part? And your heart will say, God wants me to play this part today. So hooray, hooray, I'll play this part today. And then all the parts will work together because there's one master director, you see. There's one who is directing the symphony, and every member of the carousel is not trying to go a different way. If all those people on the carousel on their little toy horses are trying to go a different way, then the carousel can't go around, you see. It has to be that everybody wants to play in the same way. This doesn't mean everybody is a copy, it means they're original. They are an original. You are an original if you trust on God and you establish a direct connection with God. You are an original. God doesn't create copies. God didn't create humanity and then say, well, I'm done. I'll just send this to the factory and they can make a lot of copies on their machinery. And I'll make sure they're all stamped with original sin because they're all a mistake, you see, all except the original. They're all a copy. And so let's copy Adam and Eve, you see. And since Adam and Eve just wanted to have a little fun and eat an apple today, and God said, go ahead, go ahead and eat that apple, honey. But don't worry about me ordering you around because I'm not here to order you around and I won't forbid you'd eat that apple, you see. However, if you turn the tables on me and you tell me that I have to be the one that answers to you, if you tell me that you're God, you see, and that I have to be the one that you copy because you think you know who God is. And therefore, you have to give a copy to everybody else. So you give them a copy of the Bible and say, here's God today, here's God today. And if you don't trust on this Bible, then you're liable to be tortured, you see. We'll have to torture you. We'll have to torture the truth out of you until you are just a copy, you see, and you can't be an original. You can't think for yourself. You can't be logical because logic is a gift from God. And if you're logical and you say, well, this Bible makes no sense to me today because it doesn't conform to reality that I see, then we'll have to kill you because we can't trust on logic today because we have to trust on hypocrisy. Because then we know we're smarter than God because God trusts on logic and we trust on hypocrisy. So that means that God must be inferior to us because we created our own world, you see, where we would live in the shadows of reality. And now we all have to copy Adam and Eve because we never got a clue that Adam and Eve didn't give a shit because God didn't give a shit, whether they ate an apple or not, and whatever tree they ate it from. He only gave a shit when people began to say, well, we got to be smarter than God today. How about we create the devil? How about we create the idea of evil? How about we create the idea of hell? And then everybody will have to do what we tell them, or we'll throw them in there. We'll frighten them to death. And then when they're frightened to death, we will stick them in the fiery furnace, you see? And then we'll be smarter than God, because God doesn't believe in hell. We do. And so they try to sell their Bibles, you see, in order to control reality, in order to say, we'll never know reality because we trust on a fantasy world. Now, I've said a lot because I've got a lot to say, and I hope you have a lot to say too, because now is the time for you to say it. Now is the time for you to go out in the world and say it. Now is the time for you to say it to your friends, you see, and your family, and say, I love you, but I won't play in a certain way. And if you want to play that way, then have at it. But you see, if I trust on playing that way and I make you think that I accept it, even though I don't, I'm a hypocrite, you see. If I say to you, well, we can just agree to disagree, then I just add to the cacophony. Are you following this? And so if you have members of your family who say, well, I've got to use you for my heaven connection to heaven, you see, and I can't let you go because then I'll be bereft. You have to say, well, that's okay if you're bereft, because the reason you're bereft is because you left your trust on God today, because God has it in hand and God knows how he wants to play. And so Steve's here to say that he trusts on God today because God brought him back to step, but only after he finally accepted that he would never see her again, that they would never be together again. He had to give up his trust on his own version of God, you see, because he thought he was the God of the universe. He thought he had a handle on it. He thought he could tell everybody else how it was, but that made him so miserable. When he found Steph, he said, hey, you know the way today. You know the way today. You make me laugh, and I like to play with you. And when you find someone who makes you laugh and you like to play with them, and gradually you begin to drop your animosity towards others, you see, and you begin to say, you know what? I don't care how they play. I just want to play in the fields of the Lord. I just want to play with my friends, you see, because it's not so much what we do, it's that we do it together. It's that we harmonize. It's not what music we play, you see. It's not that we're a famous band. It's just that we have so much fun when we play together and harmonize together. And so Steve and Steph and Thomas harmonized today because Steve came to believe in God again. And so Steph doesn't have to worry about him. She doesn't have to say, well, why does he play that way? Why does he play that way? Why does he care what I do? And now he doesn't care what she does because he knows that God doesn't care. God doesn't care what she does either. God just says, hey, what do you want to do today? And if she says, well, I want to get a gun and go kill somebody today, then God says, okay, but you know what? That's what will come back to you because that's the cardinal rule, you see. So we can go do that, but then let's see what happens. You want to see what happens? Because I'm the God of the universe. And therefore, There is nothing in my world, you see, that is not a reality. If you want to spill some blood, let's spill some blood. And if you don't want to do that, if you want to just have some friends that you can talk to and who will talk to you and who will say, I love you today. What do you want to do today? You want to bake some bread? You want to write a book? You want to make some music? What do you want to do today? Let's talk it over and let's figure out a way to play together because we're friends. And when the day is done, what you will say is, I played with friends today. And so, although Steph spends a lot of time talking to God and others, at the end of the day, she says, I don't know what they said. I don't even remember what they said. All I know is I had a good time because I played with friends today. I played with friends today. So now I'll pause and give you cause to think about it and talk to me so I can find out what you want to do today. Hi there. Oh gosh, he's gotten so big. Vic, can you hold him up so we can see him? Oh goodness, he must be almost 6 months.
He is 5 months and 5 days, and he
Hey
weighs
there.
about 16 pounds.
Hey
Say
Alexander. Do
hi.
you call him Alex or what do you call him?
I call him Alexander, but Faye calls
Uh,
him Alex. Say hi,
hi. Hi, Alex. So
babies.
cute.
Wonderful.
So what do you guys have to say, eh?
It's I don't know. We're gonna have to play well with people, but I found it very interesting that, if they don't want to play that way, we can just go off and we should go off and play our own way. And I agree with that. I feel like that's a good way to play it out. And yeah, a lot of people don't want to hear, and that's fine. We'll just go off and do our own thing, and they can do their thing and reap what they sow, so to speak.
The way I look at it is if we agree to disagree and we play with people in a hypocritical way, where we just say, well, that's the way they are. I just have to suffer through it. Then it's no fun, first of all. But if we go away and we say, I don't want to play that way, eventually, because people don't say that, eventually it might occur to them that you're happy and they're still living in cacophony. And eventually, because God has everybody's strings, he might be able to turn them around a little bit to come back to you and say, hey, maybe I'd like to just talk about this today a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit more what you think. And then you always have the door ready to be opened if they want to play your way. If they want to come through the gate, they can come through the gate, even if it's only into the ante room, where you talk and not all the way into the garden. I've seen that happen. Well, Steve's a good example. He didn't really want to go away. So he's the prime example, but I've seen it in other people as well. Eventually they'll come to you and say, hey, you know, I I understand that you don't say, I hate you today, you have to go away. You just say, I need my space to play my way.
Makes sense to me.
And they can still play their way. It's like you can play your way. If you tell God, I got to go get a gun and kill somebody, God will play with you. If you say, I got to go and sit in the pew and listen to them read the Bible to me, and I have to talk about my neighbors in a most horrible way, God will play with you. But it's a pretty nasty game. because it will all come back to you. But at the end of the day, if you could say, well, I played with my friends today, what comes back to you? Guess tomorrow I'll just be playing with my friends again.
Hmm.
And we'll be originals. So we'll be able to put our heads together and create something original
I
and not
like
just
it.
a copy of the way people have been doing it in the past and stamp another name on it. You know, let's create another cage, but we'll just put a different name on it, and our cage will be better than your cage.
Exciting. Exciting.
It is kind of exciting, isn't it? Do you guys feel excited? Rest of you?
Yes,
Well,
I
we're
feel
in bed.
excited.
Go ahead, Laura. Or who
I,
was that? Was that Laura?
I
Okay, go ahead.
even though this has been kind of sudden and it's extremely life changing, and selling the house and thinking about moving and all that, there's still a ground level of excitement in a process that really should be scary, you know. So, but one of the things I like to say is, with something this big and a whole different point of view on looking at things. I like to say, wow, this is a big one, God. I'm really going to have fun watching you figure this one out. This is going to be fun. And then that just kind of gets me like, ooh, excited about the process.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that too. Oh God, I just canned Steve. I don't know how you're going to figure this one out, but
Right, right. Yeah,
he
here you
won't go
go.
away. I just ignore him.
Right, right. Yeah, you did that.
All right. Stop and think about this a minute, Steph, and group of you who are paying attention. What would be the outcome if God went away and didn't stay connected to you? What would happen?
I guess I would just do my own thing, but at this point, I would attempt to be a good player with my playmates.
But without his
He,
guidance, well, I don't know.
he just went away. No
Yeah,
God anymore.
scary.
Well, I mean, I'm gonna be back and I'm gonna play here anyway. Might as well play well for my next round. Practice up.
No kidding. How are you going to play your hand? And they always say hand in glove, hand in glove. So how are you going to play your hand? Are you going to play for the big stakes, or are you just going to play in the same old way? Well, I'll get knocked off the table here pretty quick, and then I'll go and whatever.
Big stakes and
Oh,
chubby
gee, I got
babies.
an ace up my sleeve. What do you think,
Um,
Winnie?
can I comment on that question you just asked about what would you do if God went away?
Yeah.
That thought occurred to me because, we had the experience of Michael being here, and I don't know if this is the same thing, but I thought, well, what if God just started not speaking like Michael did? And my thoughts were, well, then that would be because we're supposed to be figuring some of it out without the direct answers all the time, because we're supposed to be finding our own God awareness. I don't know. That was just my thought when I was thinking of that the other day.
Yeah, I don't know where it would go, but the only thing I know is that like Winnie, you were saying in that one video, I was expressing my thoughts that, I'm preaching to the choir and getting kind of tired of it, getting kind of stale. When something happens that kind of changes the trajectory or your feelings inside or something, so far I'm like, something more fantastic comes along. It was fun having Michael here. But when Michael went away, God stepped in. And, occasionally, and Steve and Tobias will come back. But most of the circle of love has come back to earth, and it's like, oh, so and so has left. I haven't talked to Abraham in years. Oh, well, that's because he's on earth now. How cool, but somebody else will come in and talk, Dr. Seuss, Oh, it's kind of exciting to see different voices come through, don't you think? And different perspectives. And so for 9 years, I can honestly say every time I get in a dump and I think, well, that's over, something more wonderful will come along. And it's not really a bad dump. It's just like, okay, it's a little letdown of the energy. And then in that space, something new comes in. And if that's always the way it is, cool. Right?
Well, for me, I'm thinking if God went away, He's given us reality, which is our experience. So if I should get up one day and notice that God is not there, I'm definitely going to hold on to reality very firmly because I know if God is gone, I still have the second and the third perspective, experience and reality. Well, God says God, you, and reality. So I'm still there, and reality is there. So there's still two persons, if I can use the word person, and I'll hold on to that. And I don't know if there's any way that if I hold on to that, God can stay away for long because when there's me and reality, I have the feeling that God will always be there. So it will be my chance to pull him back if I can. Stick to
Well,
reality.
yeah. To me, if God went away, there would be nothing.
That's
Because the
scary.
opposite of God is everything. What's the opposite of everything? And then what's the problem? There's just nothing. What's the problem? You never existed.
Well, then I'll have no
So you either
questions.
have it all or you have nothing.
Okay.
That's the way I see it anyway. You can't, it would be like cutting out your own heart. It's like those people that kill God. You're killing yourself. You become the zombie. You become the one that lives between life and death. You are in a limbo land. You're in a coma. You can't kill God, but you can put yourself in a coma because if you really could kill God, then everything would cease to be. And then you look around and you say, what is reality anyway? Where did all this come from? What is it? And then you say, it doesn't matter anyway. It doesn't matter how it came to be. I'll never figure that out. God blinks out of existence and it's all gone. God blinks back into existence. It's all here. So what's the problem? Either way, why worry about it? Why not just say, well, here I am. I'll never figure it out. So I'll just enjoy it. The fact that I'm here, right? Well, anybody got any other questions or thoughts? Do you want to comment on that further, Tobias?